Why do you volunteer in the refugee, specifically the refugee community?
Well, the initial catalyst for that was that it was a calling that I received from my church denomination, and I was actually solicited to find other men to work for refugee scout troops, and they asked me to go through a list of all the men who I had responsibility for in my church group to see who would be able to serve best in that capacity. And as I went down that list and I looked at it, I realized that I probably had more scouting experience than anyone else, and something just said to me very strongly inside that you should be that man. So I decided I would.
Choose the Islamic units.
Well, I have a lot of familiarity with Muslim countries and a fair amount of familiarity with Muslim and Islamic culture. I've spent a substantial amount of time in my life in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkey. Knew some wonderful Muslim people, and our family feels a kinship and bond with some of those countries in that part of the world.
What are some of the challenges you have faced while building this new refugee program, especially in the job that you got, the assignment you got?
I think there are a number of challenges that are significant that will be a challenge to any group putting together a refugee scout troop. I think first and foremost is finding adult leadership. Many of the refugee groups don't have many fathers, and so we are always looking for men who are from the same cultural groups, ethnic groups, who speak the language of the families to be able to help and teach and serve in refugee scouts. Some groups have been very helpful in providing those people. Some groups don't have any people to provide. If I'm thinking about the Muslim groups that I'm working with, we have some groups that are formed out of housing projects that don't have any fathers to come and help. When I'm working out with a large mosque, I find phenomenal, competent, capable, good Muslim men who are doing everything they can to help and support me. So I think, and that's the key, I've asked some of those Muslim men to help with some of these other areas, and they've come to the forefront to places where there aren't fathers, and they're helping me there. So that's the first challenge. I think the second challenge is a language challenge. I think many parents don't speak English very well and have no familiarity at all with scouting or what we're trying to do with those boys. And so I think it's important to go out and find people that can help interpret. The boys do great. The boys learn English in just a few months. And if you close your eyes and listen to them, they sound like your own sons. But the parents take a lot longer to learn the language and to assimilate. And it's just the nature of being a little bit older. Probably watching less TV too. So I think that's a challenge in trying to get parents to be familiar with the language, and then to be familiar with scouting. I think the parents don't understand what we're doing, why we're taking their boys away. I think with certain religious groups, I think that there's a concern that scouting might do something that undermines their beliefs and value system. And when I work with in the Muslim community, the men who operate the different Muslim groups and are on their boards are just completely in harmony with scouting and scouting's objectives. So when we have a chance to help them go out and explain to parents what we're doing in their parents' own language, suddenly those barriers begin to break down. So I think part of the key to success is to find Muslim man or Buddhist man or Hindi man or Christian man from the country who you can help understand the program, and bring those people to help break down barriers. I got one other one that I want to tell you about, is that these boys, you know, for those of us who grew up in Boy Scout areas or grew up here in the United States in relative affluence, our families all have tents and sleeping bags and backpacks and camping gear and mountain bikes and everything else. These boys don't necessarily even own a pair of tennis shoes. A lot of them come in flip-flops to scouts. And when I think about winter camp right now, I'm trying to find today 60 pairs of boots for boys to go to winter camp. You really, as you are planning camps and other activities, you're going to have to gear up and find ways to do that and find people to donate that gear. I think that's a particularly significant problem because these families don't have the resources to be able to provide the things that we take for granted.
What advice would you give to another council who wants to start a program like this?
I think that that if I was going to start a Refugee Scout program from anew, I would try to work hard to co-opt the leaders in the various refugee communities, have them understand the fruits and benefits of scouting, introduce them to the program. So to try to get those leaders completely committed. I think beyond that, I think quite honestly, you're going to have to go to nonprofit funding groups to be able to get some money to run this program. And you're going to have to go take those local leaders from those different refugee groups and introduce them to people that can provide some assistance. Because even running a minimal scout program with a refugee troop costs a lot more money than these refugees can afford to contribute. And so I think having buy-in and building resources is key, because the more fun and meaningful things that you can help the boys do, and not all meaningful and fun things take money, but frequently they do, especially if you're going outside and you're going camping or swimming or other things. You need to provide those meaningful activities to be able to compete with everything else that's going around these boys.
Where do you see this program in the next 5 years?
Well, here in Salt Lake, we have 40 to 60,000 Muslims on the Wasatch Front. We have probably 2,000 Muslim boys that we can recruit into scouting. My objective in 2 years is to have 500 Muslim boys in scout troops. Right now, I think by the end of this week, I'll have 75. And so I've got a lot of work ahead of me. I've got to find a lot of leaders to help support this, a lot of volunteers. At 5 years, I don't know. I'd like to get at least half those boys involved in that time period.
Perfect. And then the last question would be, what do you think this program will do for the lives of our youth, especially those who you're reaching out to?
I think providing boys a sense of accomplishment and trust, and to give them opportunities to lead, will help make them better men, will help make them better Americans, will increase their likelihood of going on to college, which will increase their likelihood of having better employment. I think that, well, I would tell you, the other night, I was at an event, an activity where our boys who don't have full uniforms got to have, well, they had, 2 of them had full uniforms given to them to participate in a special court of honor. When we got home, we sat with their mother, and I taught their mother how to dress the boys in their full uniforms for the event. And the minute I got those uniforms on those boys, they took off in their housing complex, ran down the hall, and knocked on the door of every other boy in the troop to show them their uniform. And all the other boys expressed their jealousy, and because they all wanted to have that opportunity to participate, to grow, and to have that sense of duty and honor that a couple of our boys were experiencing. So I see an opportunity to have these boys achieve and strive something higher. They all want to do something more. All boys want to do something more. And Scouting is a chance to be able to have them do that.
Thank you so much for all your help and everything you do. We appreciate it.